All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of Nvidia and what the future of AI holds? Because we've got this really cool article from the Motley Fool, and I think we should just jump right in.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's pretty dense. So I think listeners will definitely appreciate, just getting the highlights.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the first things that really stood out to me was this idea of agentic AI. And the article describes it as this next level of AI that can actually solve problems.
Like it's thinking for itself, right?
Yeah, basically. So it's not just, processing data, it's actually using that data to come up with solutions.
Yeah, like imagine like a financial advisor,
Oh, wow.
an AI financial advisor that not only analyzes your portfolio, but also suggests investment strategies.
Oh, okay. That's pretty impressive. So how does NVIDIA fit into all this whole agentic AI thing?
Well, they're not just making the chips that power AI, they're building the entire ecosystem. They're like the master architects of this new AI world.
And the article says that their stock could potentially skyrocket this year, maybe even double digits.
Yeah, that's what the Motley Fool seems to think. And they're pointing to NVIDIA's crazy revenue growth. Some areas even have triple-digit increases.
Wow.
And get this, their gross margin is over 70%.
Hold on, did you say 70%?
Over 70%.
That's insane. Most companies would kill for margins half that size.
Right.
So what's their secret?
Well, for one thing, they're dominating the AI chip market. They were ahead of the game, and they're not letting up at all.
Yeah, I mean, and they've got a leader who's all in on AI. The article quotes Jensen Huang, their CEO, and he says that AI is advancing at an incredible pace.
And that's a key statement. It shows that NVIDIA is not just, aware of these advancements. They're actively pushing the boundaries.
It makes you wonder what this incredible pace actually means. How is this technology really changing things right now?
Well, think about this. Huang mentioned that there's about $1 trillion worth of computers worldwide that need to be upgraded to handle accelerated computing, like all these demands.
Yeah.
That's a massive market that's just waiting to be tapped.
So NVIDIA is sitting pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this huge potential revenue stream as companies try to upgrade their systems and get it with the AI program. But let's go back to this agentic AI for a minute. The article kind of skimmed over it. Can you just break it down for me, simply?
Sure. So let's say you've got a problem, a really complex problem that needs a solution. Agentic AI is like this super smart assistant who can not only understand the problem, but also come up with a bunch of different solutions and even start putting those solutions into action.
So it's not just about analyzing data, it's about taking action based on the analysis. Wow, that's really something. So what kind of problems are we talking about here?
Well, it could be anything, like streamlining drug discovery, designing personalized medical treatments, optimizing traffic flow in cities.
Wow.
Even predicting and then mitigating the effects of climate change.
Wow, okay, now I'm starting to see the potential. But it all sounds very futuristic. Is this something that we'll see in our lifetime? Or is this still sci-fi?
It's closer than you think. NVIDIA is already laying the groundwork. They're working on these blueprints for companies to design their own AI agents, and they've already got partners lined up who are creating blueprints that work with their software. The potential reach is huge.
So it's like they're creating a whole new language for AI, and they're not stopping there.
Yeah.
The article also mentioned their new architecture, Blackwell. What is that all about?
Blackwell is their latest platform for AI. It's completely customizable, so companies can choose different chips, networking options, all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
To build a system that fits their needs.
So it's like a build-your-own AI powerhouse.
Pretty much.
No wonder the article thinks Blackwell could bring in billions of dollars in revenue.
That's right. And remember, this is just one piece. They're also working on their next-gen architecture, Rubin, which was supposed to launch in 2026. But might actually hit the market as early as the third quarter of this year.
Hold on. They're already working on the next big thing while launching this other groundbreaking platform? That's wild.
Yeah, they're really going for it. And these new architectures are really going to change AI development. They're really solidifying NVIDIA's position.
Okay, so we've got this super advanced AI, chips flying off the shelves, a company that seems to be moving at warp speed. But this article also mentioned NVIDIA's work with self-driving cars. So how does that fit into all of this?
Well, it's just another example of their strategy, Huang believes that self-driving cars could be the first multi-trillion-dollar robotics industry.
Yeah.
And guess who's already partnering with all the major automotive players?
NVIDIA, of course. I mean, they're not just betting on the future, they're building it.
Yeah, exactly.
But all of this innovation and growth has to come with some challenges, right? I mean, it can't all be smooth sailing.
Well, you're right. The article does mention that Nvidia's gross margin might take a hit with new platforms like Blackwell and Rubin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
New products have upfront costs,
Yeah,
and those costs can eat into profits.
I get it. But I guess these new platforms will generate so much revenue that it won't even matter.
That's the idea. It's a calculated risk. And speaking of risk, let's talk about Nvidia stock. The article says it's currently trading at 46 times forward earnings.
Okay, I gotta be honest. Financial jargon is not my thing. What does that even mean?
Well, forward earnings are basically what analysts predict a company will earn in the future. So 46 times forward earnings means that investors are paying a lot for the stock because they believe in the company's future. They think the future earnings will justify the high price.
So even though the stock is already kind of pricey, investors are still really optimistic about Nvidia.
That's right. And 46 times forward earnings might seem high, but it's actually down from 75 times earnings in 2022. So given their growth potential, there's a strong argument that the stock is still fairly valued.
So even after 2 years of impressive gains, there's still room for the stock to climb even higher. Wow, okay, this is getting interesting. But before we go too far into investments and all of that, I want to take a step back and talk about the bigger picture. We're talking about AI that can maybe solve some of humanity's biggest problems, but are there downsides? What about the potential downsides?
That's a great question. AI is a very powerful tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. We need to think about the ethical implications, the potential for jobs being lost, the risks of bias in AI algorithms. These are conversations we need to have now.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all this new technology, but we can't forget about the consequences.
Right. But it's important to remember that technology itself isn't good or bad. It's how we use it that matters. And that's where the conversation has to start.
It's a lot to think about. I mean, for sure. But
Right.
let's try to break it down a bit more. What really stood out to you as, fascinating about NVIDIA's approach to AI?
I think what's really fascinating here is how they've gone from this company known for their hardware,
Right.
like graphics cards for gaming,
Yeah.
to now one that's offering a complete AI solution. It's like they really get this idea of, building the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and they're not just making the chips anymore. They're creating platforms, software. They're even partnering with other companies
Right.
to build out this whole network for agentic AI. It's like they're really building something completely new.
Yeah, and their partnerships are really key to their success, I think. By working with those top companies, in things like automotive and healthcare, it means their technology is being applied to, real-world problems.
Yeah, it's not just about the tech itself. And NVIDIA seems to really understand that AI has to be accessible. The article mentioned these blueprints they're developing for agentic AI,
Right.
which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and those blueprints are super important because they basically, democratize AI development. They're giving companies the tools to create their own AI agents, even if they don't have a ton of technical expertise.
So it's like they're making it easier to adopt AI, which could lead to a ton of new applications and innovations, across industries.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting. It means we're going to see even more AI in our daily lives.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how we work, how we learn, how we interact with the world around us.
Yeah.
AI is going to be part of all of that.
Okay, so we've talked about NVIDIA's dominance with AI chips, their strategy, their innovative architectures like Blackwell and Rubin, and their push into agentic AI and self-driving cars. But how is this all going to actually impact our lives? What does it mean for the average person who maybe doesn't follow the tech world?
That's the question. Right?
Yeah.
The truth is that AI is already affecting us in so many ways, even if we don't know it. I mean, think about the algorithms that, personalize our social media feeds or the voice assistants that answer our questions. That's all AI.
So are we already living in the age of AI, or is this just the start?
I think it's just the start. We're still in the early stages, but what NVIDIA is doing is going to speed things up like crazy. Imagine AI that helps us diagnose diseases earlier, develop new treatments, create more efficient transportation systems, even tackle climate change.
Okay, yeah, that's incredible, but also a little scary. I mean, this technology is so powerful. It has the potential to change the world. But what about job displacement? What about the ethical challenges? I mean, as AI gets smarter,
Those are all valid concerns, and it's super important that we develop and use AI responsibly. We need to be aware of the consequences, both the good and the bad, and talk about how to make sure AI is used for good.
it's a conversation we need to be having right now, not later, when it's too late. But I think for today, we've done a pretty good job of explaining, some of the key takeaways from this deep dive into NVIDIA and the future of AI.
Yeah, I agree. It's clear that NVIDIA is a company we should be paying attention to. They're leading this technological revolution,
Right.
and it's going to impact the world for a very long time.
Absolutely. And speaking of keeping an eye on things, the article talked about NVIDIA's stock performance
Right.
and that there's a lot of potential for gains in the coming year. What do you think about that? Is this stock something that, like, the average person should think about?
Well, any investment is going to have risks,
Yeah.
especially in the tech sector, which can be super volatile. And just because a company has done well in the past
Yeah.
doesn't guarantee it'll continue to do so.
Right. So no guarantees. But what about NVIDIA in particular? What makes their stock attractive?
They have a good track record of financial performance,
Mm-hmm.
and their position in the AI market is really strong,
Yeah.
which, looks good for them. They're constantly innovating and pushing the boundaries.
The article said their stock is trading at a premium compared to other tech companies. Does that worry you?
It's something to think about for sure. Investors are paying a premium for that growth potential. So if those expectations aren't met,
Yeah.
there's a higher chance of, a correction.
So high growth potential means higher risk.
Exactly. That's why you got to do your research.
Yeah.
Understand how the company is doing financially, what the market looks like, and then you can make smart decisions based on your own risk tolerance and your investment goals.
That's good advice, no matter what stock you're looking at. But about NVIDIA specifically, do you think their stock is a good buy right now?
I can't really answer that. I'm not a financial advisor. And, it's not really my place to give investment advice. Everyone's situation is different.
That's fair. But let's just say someone asked you for your opinion on NVIDIA. What would you say?
I'd say it's a company worth watching. They are at the forefront of this huge technological change.
Yeah.
They're doing well financially, and they have a leader who is really, pushing things forward. But like with any investment, you have to do your research and understand what the risks are.
Okay, so no hot stock tips today, but I think we've given our listeners some good information to think about. So what are your final thoughts on all of this? Where do you see things going in the next few years?
I think we are really just at the beginning of what AI can do, and NVIDIA is going to play a big role in shaping that future. We're going to see AI integrated into everything, from healthcare and transportation to education and entertainment.
It's both really exciting and kind of scary to imagine what that world's going to look like, but it's definitely going to be wild.
Definitely buckle up because NVIDIA is just getting started.
It really does feel like we are right on the edge of something huge. I mean, this deep dive has been a lot of information, and I'm honestly still kind of processing it all. But let's circle back to that question from the beginning. Where do you think NVIDIA will be in a year from now?
Oh, well, I mean, based on everything we've talked about, I think it's safe to say that NVIDIA is in a great position to keep growing. I mean, they're dominating the AI chip market, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And their upcoming architectures, like Blackwell and Rubin, are really going to shake things up.
Right. And they're not just focused on the hardware, They're building the entire ecosystem for AI. Their strategic partnerships, their work with agentic AI, all of that, and their push into self-driving cars. I mean, it all just shows that they're not just along for the ride. They are building the future.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that NVIDIA's approach is what's called vertically integrated. They are involved in every single stage of the process, from designing the chips to manufacturing them to developing the software and the platforms that make the chips work. It gives them a big advantage over competitors who might just specialize in one thing.
So it's not just about being the best at one thing, it's about controlling the entire process.
Exactly.
That's a smart strategy. And I mean, let's not forget about how well they're doing financially. I mean, they're constantly exceeding earnings expectations. Their gross margin is amazing.
Right. Their financial strength lets them invest a lot in R&D.
Oh, yeah.
Which means more innovation, and they stay ahead of everyone else. It's a cycle that's really hard to break.
But you said earlier that investing always has risks.
Yeah.
I mean, the tech sector is known for being unpredictable, and even the most promising companies can, run into trouble. So what are some of the things that could challenge NVIDIA in the coming year?
Competition is one thing. Even though NVIDIA is the leader in AI chips right now,
Yeah.
there are other companies out there who want a piece of that market. Intel, AMD, Google.
Oh, yeah.
They're all investing in AI,
Mm-hmm.
and they could cut into NVIDIA's market share eventually.
That makes sense. It's pretty rare for a company to stay on top forever. Yeah. What else should investors be thinking about?
The economy. I mean, if there's a recession, it could really hurt demand for their products.
Hmm.
Businesses might cut back on spending.
So even a company like Nvidia could be affected by the economy. That's a good reminder that investing always has some risk. But let's look at the bigger picture here. I mean, this deep dive has really shown us how powerful AI is, and Nvidia is really leading the way. What are some of the key things you hope listeners will take away from this?
I hope they understand just how important NVIDIA is to AI. They're not just a chip maker, they are really pushing innovation in a lot of industries, and they're changing what's possible with AI.
Yeah, and it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how it will affect our lives. I mean, AI has the potential to solve so many problems, but it also brings up some serious questions.
Exactly. We need to be really careful and thoughtful about how we develop and use AI. We need to think about the good and the bad and have open and honest conversations about how to use AI for good.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's a great place to end. This has been a really insightful deep dive, and I'm really excited to see what's next for NVIDIA and for the world of AI.
Me too. It's going to be incredible.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the fascinating world of NVIDIA and the future of AI. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that entrepreneurial spirit burning bright.